Hey guys, it's Gawain, and today we are going to be looking at one of the characters that can provide a hell of a lot of intel without relying on a camera feed. Lesion. Lesion is a 2-speed 2-armor defense operator that specializes in intel gathering and crowd control. Lesion has good guns and a primary gadget that will give away the enemy's position and hurt them over time. Good Lesion players will know exactly where the enemy is when one of his traps go off and play off that intel accordingly. Let's learn how to play him. Lesion is equipped with his poison pods, of which he gets 8 total. He doesn't get all of these at once, mind you. He starts with 1 at the start of the prep phase and gains 1 every 30 seconds after that. Lesion's poison pods are throwable gadgets that will deploy on any flat surface and bounce off most other surfaces. Once deployed, the pod's lid will fly off, exposing the poison needles inside before the whole thing cloaks itself, making it almost invisible. You and the enemy can see the pods if you look close enough to the ground, making drones easily able to spot them. The radius of these mines is about 1 meter, so when an enemy gets close to or steps on a goo, the poison needle will somehow perfectly arc itself into their ankle. Whilst the enemy is poisoned, they will not be able to sprint or plant the diffuser, and they will take 4 damage every 2 seconds until they pull the needle out. When someone steps on a goo mine, a distinct sound cue is made, giving away the enemy's position. It can be hard to keep track of which poison pod is where because you only get an icon showing where a goo mine is when you have direct line of sight onto it. Try your best to remember where you place your goo traps because we all know the sound in Siege isn't greatly accurate, so as long as you know generally which goo it may be, then you can act off that intel. Speaking of placement, try to put your pods of poison in the center of where you're putting them so the enemy is less likely to just walk around the mine. As a general rule of thumb, just after doorways into sight are the best places to put your goo mines because it makes the enemy walk in and then get trapped, meaning they have to walk back out again or get shot whilst pulling the needle out. You can throw your mine at the top of a doorway to get it to bounce back a little, giving you the perfect placement. On staircases, throw the mine at the vertical part of a step so it doesn't overhang the step, making it easier for the enemy to spot. Placing mines under windows and in hallways are good ideas as they cover flanks and jump-ins too. Legion's gadgets can be used quite reactively because you don't get all of them at once, so I'd advise placing your first mine on the other site, away from where you're planning on playing, to assist your team on that site. The second one can be in a similar spot or a bit closer to you. The third and fourth want to be placed around where you're playing so you can act off your own intel. The final 4 can be placed wherever you see fit. Is main breach open? Whack a goo mine around that area. Is there a corridor flanking you? Place a pod there to cover your own back. Try to cover as many flank routes or entrances into sight as you can so the enemy is bound to give away their position at some point. If a goo mine goes off and the person who stepped on it dies via you or a teammate, feel free to replace that mine because it may come in handy later in the round. You don't need to get too creative with Legion's gadgets as they are borderline invisible, and it's okay to hold on to a couple if you aren't sure just yet where the best placement for them is. Also, if you misplaced a pod, you can pick them back up too. To summarize, place your poison pods in the center of doorways, steps, and corridors so the enemy will step on them, making a sound cue, slowing them, and maybe taking some chip damage too. Legion's primary weapon options are the T5 submachine gun and the 612 SD shotgun. His secondary weapon is the Q929 handgun as he has no other options available. I personally use the T5 SMG, paired with the Q929 handgun of course. The T5 is one of the best SMGs in the game with easy to control recoil, good damage, and a high fire rate. You've only got access to one-time scopes, but that shouldn't really be a problem. Equip any attachments you want on this gun because the recoil is very manageable with no recoil reducing attachments equipped. I usually run the angled grip paired with the extended barrel, but you'll see me using the vertical grip for this video because I was a bit out of practice at the time of recording. You can really fry people with this gun, so take advantage of it and have some fun. As for the 612 SD, it's an alright shotgun, not the best but not the worst either. It can be good for hiding round corners and playing tight angles, waiting for an enemy to trigger a poison pod, but that's about it. The T5 is by far the better option. As for the Q929, it's a pretty standard pistol with an above average damage stat and a really nice sound in my opinion. As for secondary gadgets, Lesion gets access to either 2 impact grenades or 1 bulletproof camera. Both of these can work very well on Lesion, so I'm straight away going to say it's personal preference. I personally run impact grenades because they can be useful for creating rotate holes, popping soft hatches and destroying OSA shields. You can create standing rotate holes instantaneously if your team doesn't have a shotgun. This is my most common use for the impacts, but you can use them in a couple of other ways too. As for the bulletproof camera, it can deny drones, provide intel, and soak up some utility from the attackers. If your team has something to make rotates with already, then take the bulletproof camera and put it in a spot where it can't get meleeed or shot out easily, so you can provide even more info for your team. It's definitely personal preference and situational preference for Lesion secondary gadgets. To start off the prep phase, place your first goo mine away from where you plan on playing so you don't have to expose yourself as much in the action phase. Next, make a rotate hole with an impact grenade if you have them or need to. After that, reinforce a couple of walls so you and your teammates have more actual cover to play around and behind. Finally, place another poison pod down near to where you're going to play so the enemies won't catch you by surprise if they rush. To start off the action phase, get on default cameras to see where the enemy has spawned and place your third goo mine on that side of the map for later. Next, set up in the position you plan on playing for the majority of the round and occasionally cycle through cameras. Throw poison pods down where you see fit because it will change depending on the team, map and what cameras are covering where. Feel free to swing the enemy when they step on one of your spiky traps to pick up an easy kill or two. Make sure to react to the enemy's position on the map with your goo mines because if you have a couple watching your flank already, then there's no point on wasting more. Feel free to hold onto a goo mine or two if you don't currently know the enemy's position and all of your default spots are filled. If the diffuser carrier is killed, place a pod onto the case and hold it. You can easily camp the diffuser with Lesion, so try your best to do so when you get the opportunity and you'll win the round with ease. Lesion has a few counters: IQ, Brava, Twitch, Zero, EMPs, and bullets and explosives. IQ can detect your poison pods through her scanner, which renders the invisibility cloak basically useless when going against her. There isn't really anything you can do about this. Brava can hack your goo mines, so when you or a teammate step on them, you get poisoned instead. You can either destroy the Brava drone before it hacks your trap, or destroy the trap once it is hacked. Ideally, you want to destroy the drone first though, although I definitely didn't forget about Brava until almost finishing the video. Twitch and Zero both have lasers built into their camera feeds so they can zap your mines if they spot them. To prevent this, you either need to shoot the drone or the camera before it shoots your gadgets. EMPs can disable the cloaking effect and the needles of your goos temporarily, making them visible and inactive. This shouldn't be an issue though, because most EMPs won't be going anywhere near your mines. As for bullets and explosives, both can destroy your mines with ease as they can be destroyed with one single bullet. You can't do anything to prevent this, but the invisibility cloak does help a lot. Throw your poison pods at the top center of doorways so they bounce off into a position where enemies have to walk through it slightly to get triggered, giving you time to react. Use the T5 for a great SMG with low recoil, high damage and a high fire rate. Place goo mines halfway up staircases so that if an enemy triggers it, you or a teammate can peek over and kill the enemies trying to pull the needle out. Use impact grenades to make rotate holes instantaneously. React to the enemy's position on the map by scattering more poison pods over on that side than the one you know the enemies aren't going to be pushing from. Overall, Lesion is an easy operator to play in my opinion. His gadget is simple to use and provides you with a lot of intel that you otherwise wouldn't get unless you were sat on a camera feed. Learn where to position your pods, how to react to them getting triggered, where to position yourself, and you are sure to become a pretty decent Lesion player. Thank you all for watching, I do hope you enjoyed. If you found this guide helpful in any way, shape or form, please do consider subscribing and sharing it with your friends, as that does help grow the channel, which is very much appreciated. As always, most of the clips you saw in this video were taken from my Twitch stream, link will be on screen and in the description. Sledge is next for the Siege series, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.